Welcome. My name is Joel from BeABossDad.com, where we help you win at business and win at life so you can scale your business without failing your family. In today's video, I want to teach you the three-step dad method to fixing hustle culture. Right now, if you look at all the influencers online and some that are amazing that I follow, one common thread that you'll see is this mantra of just do more. If you're doing, 50% of your capacity, just do more. And here's the thing, they're not wrong in a sense, but there's also some subtleties and nuance that I want to teach you in this video that can make the difference to hustling for no reason to actually creating success on purpose. Again, about the hustle culture, there is legitimacy to that to an extent. After all, if you're in sales and you're converting 10 out of 100 people that you talk to in a week, well, then you should probably talk to 200 people and convert 20. You literally 2xing your results. And that's amazing. Like those types of improvements are incredible. If you're spending $1,000 on ads and getting 100 new leads, then it stands to reason that you should probably spend $2,000 on ads and double your leads. So the assumptions there that there is the marketplace for it, that you haven't maxed out the market that you're in, which is extremely unlikely. It's extremely unlikely that your market is oversaturated and that you can't make these types of investments and returns. But the just do more advice only works when you're making consistent progress. Okay, so couple that with the be more efficient and optimize for results mantras, and you actually have a recipe for disaster. Why is that a recipe for disaster, you ask? I'm glad you asked. Because you can get highly optimized and incredibly efficient at doing the wrong thing. So optimization and efficiency and doing more only works well if you're actually doing the right thing. And if you're optimizing and making yourself more efficient at doing the wrong thing, where is that going to get you? It's going to get you nowhere extremely fast. Now, efficiency, optimization, those are absolutely things that you should do, right? If you can improve the efficiency of your processes, if you can improve the efficiency of your decision making, you can absolutely improve the success of your business. You can increase your ROI, you can double your profits, you can do all of these things just by working more, but only if you are hustling and being more efficient and optimizing the results of doing the right thing. Have you ever heard that story about the two guys and they're talking about their business, and guy number one says, hey, how's it going in your business? It's like, oh, wow, we're really selling a lot. It's like, oh man, that's fantastic. Like compared to last year, where are you? And the second guy says, yeah, man, we're doing great. Like we are selling double what we sold last year. And guy number one says, man, that's fantastic. What are your profits like? What's your ROI like? And guy number two says, yeah, we're actually not making a profit. He's like, well, how are you going to turn that around? And guy number two says, oh, don't worry about it. We'll make it up in volume. Okay, so this is, again, it's just kind of a silly anecdotal story in the business industry, but there's a lot of truth and principle to that. If you are losing, you can't just do more and be more efficient and optimize your results if you're losing money. Like there are certain steps that have to come into the process before you begin to actually turn that business around. Now, certainly economies of scale absolutely have a legitimate place in business, right? If you can reduce your costs by, say, ordering 1,000 widgets at a time instead of 100 widgets at a time, you can reduce your cost by 10 or 15% in doing that. Well, then yeah, there's a place for those economies of scale to come into your business so that you can actually increase your profit margins. And profit margins are a huge part of having a successful business, right? But there are certain assumptions that come with the hustle culture in general, and only if those assumptions are true does just do more, quote unquote, does that actually matter. When my kids were younger, there was a time where they were studying for an exam, and it was a big exam. And this was, I want to say, late elementary school, maybe early middle school, something like that. And they were studying for this exam, and they were putting their heart and soul into it, right? And I remember my kid came home and I saw this look of defeat when they walked through the door and just, holding back tears. And it's like, oh, hey, what's going on? Well, I didn't do so good on my exam. I was like, all right, well, what do you think happened? And the answer that I got was kind of a pin in a principle to this whole concept. And what they said was, I don't understand why I failed at this exam. I tried my hardest. Now, I think you and I can both agree that if you're studying for a spelling exam and it's actually a math exam that is coming up, trying your hardest, putting more effort and energy and optimization and efficiency and hustle into what you're doing will only get you so far, because effort doesn't equal success. It's a necessary ingredient for success. It's a huge ingredient for success. You have to have effort in order to be successful. And it's also usually true that you could actually outwork your competition. In the business world and human nature in general, right, we have a tendency to fall back a little bit on our capacity. And so if you are in a place where your business is in competition with 3 or 4 of the people in your marketplace, and you can out hustle them, more than likely you absolutely will win in that scenario, because putting more effort actually does matter. And so you can usually outwork your competition. But effort alone doesn't equal success. It's the right effort that equals success. Perfect practice makes perfect, because you're only going to get better at the thing that you're doing. And if you're doing the wrong thing, you will get better at doing the wrong thing. And nothing will drive a business into disaster by focusing on the wrong thing and putting your energy in the wrong direction. There have been many attempts at trying to fix this through the years, and you've probably used a lot of these methods of having a priority system for trying to work on the right thing, or at least focusing on the right thing. But even here, subtleties matter. You can have a long list of to-dos and prioritize, but a lot of human nature comes into play here and says, well, all of these things are priority. They all need to get done, because there are pieces that are missing from the part of our brain that's just saying, what's important here? And we also have a bias in this. A lot of times, if we are writing down that list of priorities for the things that we think are important for our business, then of course we think they're priorities because we came up with that list. So if you're not careful, you'll actually wind up with this huge laundry list, a huge to-do list of everything that seems like it needs to get done now. And that's a problem, because we can't do everything at the same time. So you have to have a way of filtering through what needs to be done, and a better way to prioritize objectively that you're doing the right thing. A business that I was consulting with hired me on to kind of turn the company around. There was a lot of churn going on, and the software wasn't working great. One of the first things I asked them to do was to give me a list of the top 5 things that need to be done in the order that they need to be done. And so the next time we met, they gave me that list. And the question that I asked was, how do you know that this is the right list? And there was a little bit of a deer in the headlights look, but the answer was, well, this is what makes sense to do. Well, how do you know that these are the right features that need to be worked on right now? How do we know that these are the right bugs that need to be fixed? How do we know that this is correct? The end result of that conversation was that there was a lot of potential bias happening, because they were the ones that came up with the list. Now, everything on the list was fantastic and a high priority. So what I did was I installed a prioritization method that I do with a lot of the companies I work with. And that prioritization method actually flipped everything that they thought was the right order for those things that needed to be done pretty much on its head. And so it changed the conversation, because if I say these are all the things that I need to get done, and then you say, a coworker, for instance, well, I think these are all the things that need to get done, you both might be right from a different perspective. So having some way to filter through What are the actual things that need to be done so that you know that you're doing the right things? And then how do you prioritize the things objectively to know what's the right thing to do next? And so those are two kind of different filters. But it's hugely important that you get those two things right, because if you get those two things right, then you can pour fuel in the fire. If you've done any business study, you'll find in software especially, but this applies to any business, it could be a hardware company, software company, but the lean startup kind of shifted mentality. And that is, especially in the US, what we would typically do is say, here's a project that I think we should do, or here's a feature that I think we need to build. And there would be this huge timeline that goes into planning this whole thing out. Maybe it's a 6-month timeline, maybe it's a year timeline, but that timeline would have every perfect segment of that project or a feature mapped completely out. And then you would launch it, and you would have your engineering or your marketing build a marketing plan out for that, or your software developers start building the feature out. And what inevitably would happen, and we see this today in major construction projects all across the country, is that you would be out of time and over budget. And there's several reasons why that's the case, and we could get deep into that in another video. But the point is, when Lean Startup came into the picture, they said, how do we know that we're actually doing something of value? And how can we do it in this process in a way that's more efficient? And so one of the things that came out of that was, how do you test if you're doing the right thing? How do you test that anybody will buy it, right? One of the things that came out of that whole mindset shift was having a minimum viable product. And I actually don't like that term, minimum viable product, because there's assumptions in that you can have a fully working product. And so I actually, with the businesses that I work with and the entrepreneurs, I actually use the word prototype, minimum viable prototype, so that you can actually test, one, is it valuable enough for someone to buy? And two, can they use it? So you're testing kind of motivation of wanting to buy it and usability. All of that for another video, but it was a very valuable thing to shift the mentality of, instead of making this huge, long project timeline, and then at the end of it being out of budget and out of time, and you present that to your customer, and the customer says, that's actually not what I was envisioning at all. When I said, this is what we wanted, this is what I meant, and you heard something totally different. And it might be a great product that you built, but it's not necessarily what the customer wanted. And so you've actually done away with motivation at that point, because they don't want to buy it because it's not what they wanted. So a minimum viable prototype helps to take that issue away, right? You can make something without spending millions of dollars on it, test and see if it's the right thing to do before you take the effort, the time, the expense to go through and actually build it. So getting a little bit off track there, but the point is having a filter to know that you're doing the right thing. And so one of the filters that I use in my coaching is the 3-step DAD method. And yeah, I know, cliche, boss dad, I get it. But it's actually very valuable. I didn't come up with this, it's not mine. But putting it in this framework will hopefully help you remember to install this filter when you're going through even a day-to-day, what are the things I need to do, or a project planning for something that you're scoping out for the next year. And so step number 1 is delete. Is it something that actually needs to be done? I think one of the issues with modern business is we get stuck in the mantra of doing the thing because that's the thing that has to be done. But have you stopped to ask yourself, does it actually need to be done? We're coming up on Thanksgiving now, and you've probably heard the old story of the woman who would cut off part of the ham to put it in the oven. And someone asked them, why do you cut off that part of the ham to put it in the oven? And she said, well, I'm not sure. I'll ask my mom. So she asks her mom, and her mom says, I have no idea. Maybe it's something to do with the flavors and how the juices cook. And she says, but I'll ask your grandmother. And she asked her, and the answer was, well, it's because my oven was pretty small. And so I cut off that part of the ham to put it in the oven. And so no one stopped to ask, do we actually have to do the thing before doing the thing? And so step number 1 in the 3-step DAD method is, can you delete it? Can you just get rid of it? If you delete it, what's the worst that's going to happen? And that will help you to filter through. Maybe you can't delete it, but maybe you can modify it in a way that it matters more. Okay, so step number one, delete it if you can. Step number two of the three-step dad method is, can you automate it? One of the things that I love to do with the entrepreneurs and businesses that I work with is to install some SOPs. And I know SOPs are boring and they can get redundant and like, oh my goodness, are we actually spending time to map out how to do the thing? But if it's something that you're doing on a regular basis, and it's something that you don't have to be the one doing it on a regular basis, can it be automated? We live in a very fortunate time, especially for businesses and entrepreneurs, that there are so many valuable tools that can automate an entire process. AI agents are coming with a vengeance, and that's the whole point, is can they take something off your plate in a way that it actually adds value to the business? So can it be deleted? Do you have to do it at all? And if you do, then modify it to make it more efficient and optimized, but then can it be automated? Asking this question, especially in today's time period, is hugely valuable for the entire systemic process that your business runs through in order to take a customer from knowing about you to buying your product or service to being a happy customer in that product or service that you offer. And then ultimately, is their experience something that they would actually refer to another business, a coworker, a partner, a friend, etc., that they would want to refer because it was such an incredible experience. And automation helps the consistency of the quality of the output, right? So if it's something that you're doing a million different ways, a million different times, there's a time for that where you can make it better, right? But once you have that down, like, automate it and ask the question, is there a way, is there a tool that I can use so that this thing that has to happen every time that thing happens, that it can just be done? A common example of this is campaigns, automated campaigns in marketing departments for companies. So if you go to a link on a website and you click on that link and you put your information in and you say it's more valuable to get the thing that you're offering than it is to give up the privacy of my email address. So there's a value proposition there. The next thing that happens is an email pops into your inbox that has the thing that you were asking for, right? Well, there wasn't a person back there typing in the email that you put in and then drafting another email response and attaching the document or the download to get to you and then clicking send and hoping that you got it. Like, all that was done behind the scenes. And I know that's commonplace now, so none of this surprises you, but that's a valuable example of an automation that happens in and around us all day long. If you interact with any business at any sort of time, you've probably dealt with an automation. You've probably also dealt with an automation that doesn't work well. So after you purchase the product or the service, they're still sending you these automated emails that say, hey, would you like to become a customer? And you're like, I'm already a customer. Why am I getting this email? So their automations should start for a reason and should stop for a reason. But if you can automate it, get it off your plate. And the third step in the three-step DAD method to fixing this hustle culture problem is to delegate it. As entrepreneurs, as business owners, even as C-suite executives, it's real easy to get into the mantra of, I need to do it because I can do it better. We've always heard that saying growing up, especially if you want to get stuff done right, you got to do it yourself. Okay, that has been responsible for more businesses going bankrupt than probably about anything that I can think of. There was a book that was written by Michael Gerber called The E-Myth that talked about this. I am the technician and I can do my job incredibly well. I'm going to go start a business because I know what I'm doing. If I'm a mechanic, I can fix the car better than the owner of the business does. And so I'm just going to go start a mechanic shop because I can do mechanic work better than the owner of this business. And that business goes belly up because they have no skill and no understanding of how a business runs, of how to get customers, of how to keep customers, and how to get those customers to refer other business to you because they're happy customers. So yeah, you did a great job fixing the car, but you ran out of business because you didn't let anybody know that you were there. The book E-Myth brought some really valuable spotlight onto this mantra that it's not all about, can I do it better? When it comes to growing your business, when it comes to scaling your business, by definition, you can't do that on your own. And so if you're running from a perspective of, I have to be the one to do this because I can do it right, or I can do it better than anyone else, your business will never grow, period. It will never scale because you are landlocked to time, and you only have so much time to run a business, to be a part of a family, to be a leader in both. And so if it's something that you've convinced yourself that you're the only one that can do this well, get that out of your head, because you need a team of people around you who are good at doing the thing so that you can multiply the output. So step number one, delete it if you can. Does it have to be done? If it doesn't, just get rid of it. Step number two, can it be automated? Can the whole process be automated to the point where you don't have to actually manage that and handhold the process of that? And number three, can it be delegated? Prime example of this in my own life. It's been a few years now, thankfully. I've reaped the benefits of this. But, as a solopreneur, I was doing all of the things. I was the technician in the field. I was running the books. I was doing the invoicing. I was scheduling the appointments with future customers. And it became too much because I only have so much time in my day. And one of the things that happened was at the end of every calendar year, all the invoicing, all the bookkeeping, which is not my strong suit, would pile up. And I would wind up spending days catching up on QuickBooks and getting all the information into QuickBooks so then I could try and figure out how to file taxes appropriately, which is also not my strong suit. And I was playing with this concept of hiring a bookkeeper for X amount of dollars and doing an online version of the financial software so that they could tap into that and make corrections and file taxes and do all the things that bookkeepers and accountants are amazing at, which far exceeds my capacity in that department. And my wife said something to me that absolutely struck a chord. And she said, well, what is it going to cost you to do that? And the subscription version of the financial software was like $42 a month. And their quarterly processing of the books and filing quarterly taxes and doing those things was like, I don't know, $150 or whatever it was at that time. She looked at me and she said, you're telling me that it's more valuable to you to lose $60 a month than to spend more time with our family? I was like, oh man, did I get priorities wrong on that front? And that sealed my decision. I hired the bookkeeper, and it literally gave hours and hours and days of my life back that then I could choose to spend with the family, to prioritize the things that matter with the ones that matter the most. And so if it's something that you can delegate, do it. If it's something that you're doing on your own, ask yourself, can you delegate it? Can somebody else take this off your plate? I was doing it, wasn't doing a great job at it, but I was doing it and I was getting it done. But that doesn't mean that I have to be the one to do it. So can you delete it? Can you automate it? Can you delegate it? And so if you're the one to do it, then okay, be the one to do it. Do it with efficiency, do it with optimization, do it with the least amount of time, the most amount of impact that you can, and do it to the best of your ability. And there's nothing wrong with that, but only after you've filtered through the three-step D.A.D method for fixing hustle culture. You can't just do more. You can't just get better at doing things. You have to get better at doing more of the right thing. And when you've filtered through what to do more of with the three-step dad method, and you have some measure of objectivity. We'll get into another video on prioritization, but you have some measure of objectivity that it's not just what you think is the right thing, but stepping back and actually knowing that it's the right thing, then and only then should you pour fuel on the fire to optimize and maximize the amount that you choose to hustle. And that, my friends, is the three-step dad method to fixing hustle culture. Until next time, win at business, win at life, be a boss dad.